I never knew finding a job within your major would be so hard. So hard. And I felt like, what's the point of me having a degree if I can't find a job? And who better candidate y'all got?
What's going on, world, and welcome back to the Pursuit of the Good Life podcast, where we talk about how to enhance your relationships and crush your career goals. I'm your host, the Kameron Lovelace, not joined by Dr. Benson. Dr. Benson had a death in the family, so we gave her the week off, and we agreed that she should just take this week off. So this week, I have a return guest, is my lovely wife, the Sparkyl Lovelace. Sparkle, what's going on?
Everything's good, Mr. Lovelace. How are you?
I am fantastic. But anyway, how you feel to be back on the show?
It feels good. Feels good. I mean, I always like being next to my husband, so you know, I'm here to support whenever I can.
Of course. But this is not Entanglement Part 3.
No.
So we're not going to be talking about Will and Jada again. But we're really going to be adding some value because y'all know I don't want to talk about relationships the whole time. I want to talk about how to help you guys get from one level to the next. So this week, I definitely wanted to talk about a different perspective because if you guys did not know, if you didn't hear in her voice inflection in the last podcast, we didn't address it. But my wife is from the beautiful country of the Bahamas. And so she had a different, not only a different upbringing, but her experience in emerging into adulthood was very different than what I came through. And from other people, from the listeners, from you guys, you probably having a completely different experience. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and coming from that perspective, because I think there's some value in that as well. But first, we have to talk about, am I tripping or not? So, you know, sometimes on the show, we have a, am I tripping or not? And then it's like, am I tripping or am I right?
Okay.
And so it's funny because most of the time I'll be talking about you when I be in the am I tripping or not, because it'd be like, am I tripping or does the male da 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 da.
Yeah.
So this week, am I tripping?
Okay.
Or does nobody seem to just know what's going on? Because the school districts, like sometimes they say we're going virtual, we're not going virtual. The government is like, you know, we're not going to give funds to school, but now they're walking back and saying, okay, now we can't do that. And so nobody really knows what's going on in 2020. So like, am I tripping, or is that just like?
Nah, I don't think you tripping. I just feel like everybody just not thinking about what's really going on, and everyone just want to put their input and not really like scale back and give like an actual plan per se. Because I was driving home on the way from work today, and I heard that Shelby County was giving about 25% of students like laptops and stuff to do their homework virtually. So I mean, I thought it was a good idea, but as far as your question, no, you're not tripping. Everybody just all over the place with this. Literally, nobody know what's going to be happening in the next few weeks, next months, next year per se. So we just going with the going with the flow right now. So
let me also say that it is so important to go out and vote for your people, because the people in leadership are the ones who are making this decision.
Right.
And so I know particularly here in Memphis, we have early voting is going on right now, and then election day is August 6th, I think. So whatever your local places is, make sure you go out and exercise your right to vote, because those are the people who make these decisions.
Right.
So if they have an agenda like supporting businesses versus people, like if that doesn't align with your interests, then you need to go out and represent yourself.
Right. And I think that's very important because all the time you will see people giving their input saying, oh, they wish this and this and that was the case, but you the main one sitting home not voting. You don't know who the various candidates are. You don't know what to even vote on. So how could you even have a say on something if you not even going out there and putting your foot down and marking us that X next to the name that you think will lead us in the right path? So yes, I do agree. Even though I cannot vote, I do agree that y'all should go there and do what y'all gotta do, especially with people like us who can't vote per se and living in the United States, because we want change too. Like, we could speak all we want, but we can't do it unless y'all go there and do what y'all gotta do.
Great. So let's segue into that. So talk a little bit about what it's like, or what your experience was like growing up into the Bahamas, because from the American perspective, I won't speak for all Americans, but from my perspective, it was always it's sunshine, it's beach. Everybody has a beach in their backyard. We eating island foods, and it's just all peachy keen. Everything is just great. Right. So tell me a little bit about your experience growing up in the Bahamas.
Okay. I mean, for me, I grew up in a household with a mother and a father. My parents are married, still is married up to this day. Celebrated about 28, because I'm 27. They celebrated 28 years of marriage this year. I grew up being the only girl. I was the oldest child between my parents, and I have 4 younger brothers. In that scenario, I'd say I had it pretty good, considering I had both parents in my life. I get direction from my father, and I get the girl aspect from my mother. But I am closer to my dad than my mom. Like, me and my daddy is best friends. And growing up, I never had like the quote unquote girl talk father-daughter talk where you'd be like, let's talk about sex or boys and stuff like that, because I never wanted to discuss them kind of things with my parents. Even though we was close, I just feel like the window was not there per se to talk about that, So I never wanted to discuss. So every boyfriend I had, they did not know about it. So as far as that aspect, growing up, I always was independent, and I got it from my dad. I always had a job. So like from grade, I'd say 8 or 9, I had a job. I wanted my own money. I wanted to spend my money. I didn't want to lean on my parents for anything. That's just how I was raised. My dad always told me, don't let a man have to do everything for you. So go in there and do what you got to do. So from young, I was able to go ahead and work. The difference between working in the Bahamas and over here is the minimum wage is very, very low.
Right.
Like low. I know when I was working, the minimum wage was like $5. I don't know what it is. Over here it's like 10, I think.
So depending on the state, it fluctuates. So like for example, in Arkansas, for a little while, it was like $5.25. I remember like when I was a teenager, minimum wage was like $5.25. Yeah. But then it like went all the way up. I think it's like at $8. Okay. But that's Arkansas. I don't know what other states are doing.
Right. So back then and there, you wasn't really thinking about the wages per se, because you just was all about you get money and you young and you get to buy your own food, you get to buy your own clothes, all that good stuff. So I wasn't really thinking about the wages back then. But as I'm older now, it's like, I ain't settling for no
True that.
couple dollars an hour. Like, I got bills, I got a house, I got phone, I got to pay for school, like all these different stuff. Me and you got stuff together that we got to pay off. So I'd say having that mindset where I was able to be able to work and make my own helped me later on in life at this day and age to say, I ain't just let Cam do all the work.
Right. But let me ask you a little bit of this. So America, as you've come to realize, American is a very capitalistic society where things like credit, things about buying status, buying a new car, like that was more of that's the cultural environment that I was raised in. Right. So tell the audience, because I've really experienced it and seen it, it's different in the Bahamas.
It's very
like,
different.
Like that isn't the perspective.
Right. Okay, growing up, I didn't know nothing about credit. I didn't know what credit was. All I know is you can use the credit card, swipe, get what you need. You ain't got to pay right then and there. But like over here, you gotta use you have to have a good credit score to get a good house or a low down payment on a car, right? Back home, I think everything is mostly done with cash per se. I've never heard my parents discuss about credit ever, unless it's like paying off a credit card that they might have gotten if they ever got one per se. But credit, I really didn't learn about credit until I get with this man next to me. Like, that's just something we just did not discuss. Credit score, what is that? Like, what really is that? Like, we did everything by cash. I didn't know what it was. I didn't get my first car until 2017. I didn't know credit score was not needed for me because I didn't have stuff that used credit. My parents' house was paid off by my grandparents. So we didn't have to discuss what it is to pay mortgage every month or what it is to pay down on a house because our house was paid for. So I had it.
And they still live in the house.
And they still live in the house today. Like, I had it very much different because my grandparents did a lot in the forerun. For my parents, that led the way to where we at today. But credit, we did not have that at all.
That's true. So when I speak about capitalism, that's of course, well, let me say from my perspective.
Okay.
Capitalism kind of represented you do what you can to achieve all that you can achieve, to make as much money as you can do, to do all the things you can do at the highest level. And sometimes that means monetarily, sometimes that means career. So the conversations that were had in my house were about, what do you want to do when you grow up? And how do you want to do it, and how much money do you want to make, and da 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 da.
Right.
So it was kind of more status related. So that was not the conversations that were had in the Bahamas. So what kind of conversations were you guys had?
Well, let me don't say in the Bahamas. Let me say in
your household.
My household. Like, growing up, I always knew I wanted to be a doctor. I always knew I wanted to do track. So literally, athletics was the only thing we mostly talked about in the house. So you was kind of different from me because you have a mother that discussed those kind of things because that's how she was raised and that's what she developed in her life.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that's how she was raised. I think that's what she did not have growing up. So she made sure that was important for us to have. Yeah. Right.
So that's why I feel like I would be able to carry on when I become a mother is developing that. But as far as talking to his kids, my dad, my mom, talking to us about how you gonna get there. Goals setting, like 5-year plan, 10-year plan. Like, we never gone through that because everything was all about athletics and knowing where we want to go, but we never actually wrote down a plan to say how we gonna actually achieve this.
Right.
So that was the major difference between how I was raised and you was raised.
Right. And I think it was also what's interesting that I see from the outside perspective is that since it's not a capitalistic perspective, it's a collectivism perspective. Like, everybody just contributes to the household to help everybody out instead of you go out and do your thing. Right. And you go start your family and you go do this. Like, right. I don't know if you it just said this is how it is, but it's kind of like understood amongst you and your 4 brothers that everybody that's here contributes to the whole house.
Exactly. And I could say that's different from your culture because at a certain age, y'all kick y'all children out. Yes.
18, you grown, get out, which is so not the case.
Right. They kick their children out. But as far as I can only speak for the Bahamas. I can't speak for the whole Caribbean. I'm pretty sure everybody kind of the same. But as far as the Bahamas, it doesn't matter the age. Like, people still live in their parents' house who over 30. So, like...
hold on. You said 30?
Over 30, yes.
So basically, if I was in the Bahamas, I would still potentially be at my mama's house.
Yeah, I could potentially be. If I wasn't with you, I probably would have still been in my parents' house too.
Wow. Okay.
Because it's like,
and that's perfectly okay.
And that's perfectly okay because it's like you move out when you feel like you ready, when you get all your ducks in a row. Like you don't just go out and you won't get no support, because that's where it leads to, oh, my family don't support me, and hatred and stuff like that, especially if you don't get it all together. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'd have still been in my parents' house stocking up my money. Mm-hmm. That's how you get to stock up your money if you ain't ready to go there. But then again, some people just get too lax about it.
Right. That's when you start stacking up your money and you just
sitting there and you ain't trying to move out. That's when you got to be like, okay, now you got to go. Mm-hmm. Especially if you get 2, 3, 4 kids and you still in your parents' house. Nah.
That's true too.
That's where you got to put your foot down. But in the Bahamas, our culture, we don't kick our children out that early. Like when you're ready, you're ready. When you get your money together, when you married and able to move out and get a house, then that's what you do.
Wow. So yeah, 27. So 27 years old.
27 years old, I'll still be in my parents' house.
Potentially.
If I didn't have, if I didn't have money, mm-hmm. and I just needed to make some money, and that goes back into, you don't make that much money in jobs over there.
Right, because minimum wage is low.
Because minimum wage is very low.
So wait, let me ask you this, because mm-hmm. there's now a university. It was a college, and then they transitioned to a university. Mm-hmm. But there is education over there.
Yes.
So what was kind of the career path, typical career path for somebody who's not in? I know your household, you said, track, doctor, mm-hmm, blah, blah, mm-hmm, blah. Mm-hmm. But from my understanding, like, your perspective on becoming a doctor always meant I have to leave Bahamas. Or did you see yourself staying in the Bahamas becoming a doctor?
See, I don't know where, like I said, I didn't have no plan. All I know is I wanted to be a doctor. I didn't care where it was gonna be. I just know for college, I wanted to be out of the Bahamas.
That was just for you personally? For
me personally.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So as far as the education, I cannot speak on University of the Bahamas because I did not attend there. So I can't really give my opinion mm-hmm. or give words that I can speak on. But I can say it from people who I have watched, they take a longer time to finish their major for some odd reason. Like some classes don't be offered until like a third semester or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's something like that. I just know like a lot of people just take a longer time, and some of the things people like to be is teachers. See a lot of teachers, see a lot of doctors. We have a lot of doctors that go to University of West Indies, and they do their program through there, and then they come through and become doctors in the Bahamas. So doctors, teachers, regular pilots. I know a lot of pilots go to the United States though. Mm-hmm. So, I can't really speak. The only thing I can speak on the University of Bahamas is that they take a longer time to arrive at your one major. So if you wanted to be, let's say your major takes 4 years. Some people be like 6, 7, 8 years before they graduate.
Good Lord.
Literally.
Which kind of reflects kind of the all for one and one for all mentality of the family, because mm-hmm. if I got, my daughter who is 18 and mm-hmm. just starting college, it might take her 8 years to finish her degree because of that. So mm-hmm. she has to stay home because her focus is on school.
On school, right.
But at the same time, she's probably working, so she can't put all her ducks into school. So she has to work a little bit.
That's another thing.
And so she might get a job. Like I know Sheeta, she works for the police. Mm-hmm. So she works mm-hmm. for the defense force. Mm-hmm. Might have people that work at the shoe store like you did.
Yeah.
You just got people who will get jobs just to help out because you're in the house.
Exactly. So, you in the house. So like I know my parents, you ain't sit up in the house and you ain't contributing at least to the light bill, mm-hmm. at least to groceries, to the phone bill. Like you need to contribute to something. So on top of you going to school mm-hmm. and trying to help, that also makes the time longer for you to graduate.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So before I ask about like your transition mm-hmm. to adulthood into where we met at UCA.
Uh-huh.
At first, I forgot to ask this question. First, is what is now your idea of a good life? So when I say the good life, what do you picture? Because for me, it was always wife, kid, house, dog, big house, big house, wife, dog, kids. That's what I pictured originally.
For me, I feel like I still trying to figure out my good life, but what I want for my life is I have a husband. Always wanted a husband, a good, godly, loving husband. I got that. I got the house that I want. Don't have my dream cars yet, but that'll eventually come. I want a life where I'm not living paycheck to paycheck, and I'm en route of doing that now. I want a life where I'm just happy. I'm not worried about nothing. Everything will be paid for. I wouldn't have to worry about how I'm gonna eat. I'm not gonna worry about how my kids gonna eat. I just want a life where everything is just worry free. That's basically, in a nutshell, what I want.
Did you grow up having a little bit of worry?
At one point, I was worried about how school was gonna be paid for. Considering that only my dad was working, and still does. My mom is a what's it called? Housewife. My mom is a housewife, so it was only my dad doing everything. So it was like, I need to do what I gotta do to get a scholarship, because I don't want everything to lean on my parents to have to pay for me. So, because they've done so much over the years, so I just felt like something have to shake. So, yeah.
Okay. So, great. So now I want to transition to your journey over here from Nassau. She's from Nassau, the capital, by the way. From Nassau to the United States, because you were a track star. You have been to the United States multiple times before.
Yes.
College trips, track meets, all that good stuff. But so when you transitioned, because you took a gap year,
I did.
Essentially, kind of a forced gap year, but you took a gap year nonetheless.
I did.
And then you went to UCA in 2011. So tell me what that process was like for you.
From graduating high school to college?
Well,
for me, I was still trying to figure out how I was going to get to school, off to school, because, like you said, I did do track. I had a lot of scholarships, but leading up to senior year, I tore my hamstring. So I was like, okay, all the scholarship money gone. Nobody want me. What I'm going to do, I do not want to be in the Bahamas to go to college in the Bahamas at the time, now the university, because I just felt like I needed to advance myself. I needed to take my talents outside of the Bahamas, And so I took 1 year off to just work. I just worked because I just needed to stack up some money and figure out how I'm going to go off to school. And I just know I wanted to be far away from the Bahamas. So after I graduated in 2010, then I got a call saying, hey, we saw you, we want you, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, this is the only school, full scholarship, why not? Who not gonna go off on a free scholarship? You don't have to pay for nothing. Your parents don't have to pay for nothing. You only got to show up and sign papers.
Right.
So that's what I did. And then I went to the University of Central Arkansas. And from there, I did my 5 years because I majored in the science. And doing a science and track is not... What's the word? What's the quote? For the faint at heart?
Yes.
That's the quote, because usually the major takes about 4 years, but I took 5 years to complete mine, considering we was gone every weekend for track, every single weekend. And then when it came to the 5th year, I wanted to cry. The reason why I wanted to cry is because the scholarship money I had to finish a summer course. The scholarship money does not cover summer. So I was like, what am I going to do? I'm in this job that is minimum wage. I barely making money. I don't want to ask my parents, what am I going to do? So after the course, I get an email saying, your your 5th year of school was paid for in full. Do you listen to me? Listen to me. When I could have jump and scream, jump off a building, do every single thing, do praise dance, do praise shout. Like, that was the best feeling in the world, to know that my coach took the time out to say he gonna pay for my school, and even though it wasn't even supposed to be covered. And that right there, I was just thankful for. So, transition out of that, moving to Memphis is the next step.
Hold on. Let's before we get there.
Okay.
Let's back up to Conway, because you kind of just no, back up. Because had you ever visited Conway, Arkansas before?
Never.
So you just took this leap of faith. This man called you on this phone, who you had or were familiar with, were not familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't know who you were, or
person,
you knew who he was. Did you know?
I did not know who he was. The person who contacted him is who I knew. I did not know him.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So he calls you and said, "Hey, saw that you a good runner.
Mm-hmm.
Want to give you a full ride.
Mm-hmm.
Get you over here. Blah blah blah."
Mm-hmm.
So you say you working at the shoe store for a year, was about to fall into the rotation that typically most Bahamians fall into, helping out. Mm-hmm. And then you say, "I'm going to go to this place." Conway, who? Where?
Right. I know about Arkansas because I did want to go to U of A.
Right.
But I never knew about Central Arkansas.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you go touchdown into Central Arkansas.
Right.
You, your mom, your dad, I assume. Or did they just send you by yourself?
I think the first time my dad came with me.
Okay. So
yeah.
Dad came with you.
Mm-hmm.
You guys get off the plane. I'm guessing get a rental car.
Mm-hmm.
Go, because there's no Uber at the time. Yeah. So then you go to University of Central Arkansas. And boom, you're on campus. Tell me about that first year.
The first year.
Away from home, and was it a culture shock? Or
no.
Was it? Oh,
It wasn't a culture shock or nothing. I was happy I was away from everybody. I just wanted to be away. Nothing against my Bahamian people. I love my Bahamian people. I just wanted a different atmosphere, a different scenery of people. Mm-hmm. I wanted to go and meet new people. I wanted to just have new set of friends, That first year, I thought it was pretty good. As far as settling in, I was in an all-girls dorm. And we was all on the second floor was just track girls. So all of us was there mingling because we see each other every day at practice and then come home, shower, same rotation every day, go to classes. As far as track per se, I felt like that first year was just boom for me. I was not performing the way I needed to perform. Keep in mind, I did not get... I took a year off and I did not get my hamstring worked out.
You didn't rehab?
I did not rehab at all. So it was a struggle as far as that per se. But as far as settling in, it was no culture shock at all. It ain't much difference between the Bahamas and the United States. Honestly, we right next door to Florida. So ain't nothing different. The only thing might be different is y'all experience snow. We don't. We have... We don't have no snow. It's always good weather. 70s is the lowest it usually get. Mm-hmm. It's always sunny. Good food. Different food. We like a lot of seafood. Mm-hmm. Like conch and snapper and them kind of fish and stuff like that. But
I had never heard of.
You never heard of snapper?
Not before I got with you.
Oh. But honestly, I was never shocked. Like how people say they believe in culture shock. Ain't no culture shock was with me.
There wasn't no culture shock. Would you say that the other so because you actually were in a unique position where you were one of the only Bahamians
that came,
or one of the first, or one of the first, if not the first
female.
Yeah, you were the first female
that I know of.
Yeah, to come, and then there was this mass exodus. It seemed like after just wave after wave after wave of Bahamians. But since you were I forgot my question. Since you were like the first female there, you said for you that was actually refreshing.
Yeah, it was refreshing. I wanted to meet new people. Like I wanted to be, honestly, if I could have it where I was the only woman there in school for my whole
selfish.
My whole yes. But I do appreciate the everyone who came after me. But because I met my first American best friend being within my first year of attending college. And to this day, me and her like this. We don't talk as often as we used to, but we still best friends. And like, I appreciate that. I appreciate all the friends that I met. I appreciate all the people who I've came in contact with in my college years. But being the only Bahamian, that was good, because everyone would be like, "Ooh, she from the Bahamas." Say this word.
Shaking my head.
And
so you was taking a full advantage of.
I was, because people was to be like, at the time, me and him was not together. People would be, all the guys have been like, "Ooh, her voice sexy, her accent sexy."
Mm-hmm. So you taking full advantage.
Of course I was. What you mean?
Mm-hmm. So you living, so you like, this is the life. This is good. I get to pursue my education for free. Track might not be good, but still am good. And so, okay. So now it's time to graduate.
Right.
And then that's around the time that we got together. And of course, you decided to take your talents to Memphis and join me here. So tell me what that experience was like. No, tell me OPT.
Okay.
Tell me about that.
OPT experience.
Yes.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, OPT is optional practical training, I think. So that is where you can work within your major for a year. And if you major in science, technology, engineering, or mathematics, you could extend that OPT for 2 more years. So you do that after you graduate with your undergrad or your master's. So for me, that was a struggle, because I didn't have nobody who I could like call on and say, "How do you do this process? What do you start off with?" Like, and then in the middle of it, the person who was dealing with all my information messed it up.
And then she left, didn't she?
Then she left.
Yeah.
So, y'all, when I say this was the most tedious process ever, the most tedious, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know I was supposed to file within a certain amount of time before I graduate. Everything was just going off. Everything was just going wrong. And then I went home. I wasn't supposed to go home, so I had to rush back. No, I must mention this. I was told I was not supposed to go home because my application is still processing. You're not supposed to leave the United States. And I left him, after I graduated, I left him in July.
Yeah.
I left him in July of 2016. And y'all, I did not have no money. Didn't have no job. So I was like, how am I supposed to get back to the United States and I ain't get no money? Like, I need to get on the first flight out. So I talked to him about it, y'all. I was crying. I was just upset about the whole process. Because I just come home and I wanted to spend time with my family. And here I am, have to return back to the United States so I don't get, so my application won't get denied. Anyway, fast forward. This wonderful husband of mine decided he gonna pay for my ticket. Y'all, when I say I could have break down and just run across the ocean and kiss this man, like, that's literally what I could have done. Like, he was so supportive and he was just like, okay, it made no sense crying and boo-hooing. We got to do what we got to do. So he paid for my ticket to come back over here. So when he paid for my ticket, I was able to come back over here and get everything squared away. And then I came back to the University of Central Arkansas so I could speak to somebody in person to make sure I submit what I needed to in the correct order. And then the good thing from that is when I checked my mailbox, I had a check from the IRS
to help pay for it. Yeah.
To help pay for everything, because I had to resubmit my application because it was denied the first time. So I had to resubmit my information. I was like, where I can get this money from? The IRS had a check in my mailbox that they owed me.
So let's back up for a second. So you mean to tell me and our listeners that once you graduated college, worked your 5 years in biology, that you just couldn't just go out and just apply for a job?
No, it's hard for Bahamians out here. It's hard for
internationals
out here. Like, it's so much things you gotta apply for in order for you to just work. Like if you wanna just be able to work in your major, that alone is the hardest thing. Because how much jobs y'all know there just for biology majors? Let's really think about that. It's either you gonna be a teacher or a lab assistant, and I wasn't trying to be none of that. I wasn't trying to do none of that. And then as far as the work visa per se, you know how much money that costs? The work visa alone costs a lot of money. Like you gotta put so much money. If you
like 300 plus, right?
No, the work visa is like 4 something.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to think. Oh, never mind. Go ahead. It's
Yeah.
your story.
So like if you're not working and saving up, like you gotta put a lot of money up front. Like it is so
And keep in mind, you were a broke college student at this time.
broke. It's so hard for Caribbean students, Caribbean people on the whole, to be able to work in the United States. And when there's a change of government and a change in presidents, it got even worse because the prices went even higher. So it is a struggle for us out here. Like in order for us to stay in the States, it's a struggle. Else we get kicked out and go back home, and you're not allowed to come back. If you if you overstay your welcome.
Right.
So
for those of y'all who are having hard time keeping up, so what you're explaining to me is that after you came to UCA, you got your 4-year
5-year
degree. It isn't easy for you to just go out and apply for a job. You have to get a visa of some sort first to even stay, because you come on a student visa.
Right.
And so since your time as a student was over, you then needed an additional visa to remain over here.
Right.
And so for that, they encourage y'all to do the OPT, which is, you get a job within your major for, I think it's a year. Usually.
For a year.
And so for a year, but that visa costs quite a bit of money,
right?
Especially if, mind you, you're on your own in a whole nother country, and these conversations aren't being had with you
right
in the beginning.
Right.
It's like, surprise, here's an OPT. This costs $400+, and we need you to have all this paperwork and have it here submitted by this date.
Right.
And so what you're telling us is that did not happen for you.
Did not.
So you had to figure that out kind of on the back end.
Right.
And so we get the OPT squared away. You come back and you actually work with a person that is competent in person, walks you through the paperwork, and you get that squared away.
Right.
So then came the period of no working. So tell us about that.
Okay. When you are applying for a job, y'all know you don't get a response back immediately. So I've been applying. Nothing. Everything denied. Or the famous one was, we found a better candidate for this position. I kept repeatedly getting that response in emails. And I was like, what is going on, y'all? Like, this was from August, September, October, November, December.
So, so you were approved for your OPT. What was
in
it?
August, I think. Oh, September. September. Oh,
And
2016.
And also, so keep in mind your process for those of you who have went to college and just started applying for jobs. How long it took you to find a job in your major, mind you, because you can't just get any job for her.
No, right.
You had to get a specific type of job. And you had to find a job within, what was it, 90 days, 100 days?
90 days.
Within 90 days, or else
you got to go back home.
So that's your pressure. As soon as you get the approval, you got to find a job within 90 days. So that pressure. Now, shout out to Dad, who helped us in this scenario, because on paper we had her under his business, because my dad has his own fitness business. Right. So we put her basically on the payroll. Right. Just to make it look like she has a job. Right. Until she finds the real job, she's gonna switch. But tell her how you were feeling during that time. What it was like at you. Well, you alluded to a little bit of it. Okay. Yeah. I was frustrated. I think that was the main thing. I was stressed out. I didn't know what to do. I just felt like
I was helpless per se because I couldn't buy food. I couldn't pay for an apartment, let alone. I just couldn't do nothing. I was crying every day. I was constantly emailing like 10. I was constantly applying to 10 jobs a day, basically, or even more. Like, I'll be like, babe, I applied to this, I applied to this. He'd be like, okay, just be patient, it's gonna come. And I even get frustrated with him because I felt like I was just taking all my anger out on him. I felt like he wasn't helping me feel better. That's honestly how I felt. Like, I just felt like he was just nonchalant about everything. And then he took a trip, and I'm like, you taking a trip in the middle of me feeling frustrated and I trying to find a job. Like, everything was just going out the window, and I just was upset. Like, I never knew finding a job within your major would be so hard. So hard. And I felt like, what's the point of me having a degree if I can't find a job? And who better candidate y'all got? I just honestly how I felt. I was like, I had good grades. I have a whole Bachelor of Science degree, and you telling me I can't find a job? Like, what is that? Okay? Like, that's just all my emotions just all over the place, and it was just frustrating.
Because it's interesting that you say all this, because from my perspective, it was... Because you say your perspective of me during that time was like I'm nonchalant, but as you said earlier, I'm not the type to just sit down and just wallow in in the frustration.
Right.
Like, I experience frustration, but it's like, okay, I'm off that. Now it's time to go forward and let's move on to the next thing. Like, I might have wanted that job, but the job didn't come to me. So it's like, okay, God didn't have that for me. God got something for me. Let me go out and find it. So from my perspective, it was always, okay, that just wasn't the job for you. Let's just keep applying.
Right.
Like, you here now. I'm not in a place where my mentality of giving up was just not, that's just not an option to give up. So it's like, let's keep moving forward. Whereas at the time, you wanted to just sit down and just let me just give me a moment to just be sad and frustrated and mad, upset, and stuff like that.
Right.
But it's interesting because I believed in you during that time, but it was like I needed you to believe in you. So let me also say, when you link up with somebody in a relationship or whatever, those hard times really show like the person that you're working with.
That is true.
And it's how you work through those things that kind of will help you hopefully progress to marriage or not progress to marriage. Because that was my time to discover how she acts when she's under pressure. That, sometimes it's like, okay, I'm gonna give you a moment, but
right.
We're gonna after we get over this, we're gonna pick it back up and keep it moving.
I think that was our first major disagreement.
Talk about that was like a tough, like a real blown out fight.
Not a fight, but just like, I don't like you right now. Like, you're not helping my situation. Because remember, it was during that weekend.
I remember because I went to Boston to support one of my friends that had graduated with her master's.
Right.
So I went and traveled to Boston while you were here. I left you my car. I left you everything.
But like I say, it was just all emotions just building up. So you could have been doing the right thing, but it's just like I didn't want to hear nothing. Everything you do was a problem to me.
Right thing. You just had all this pent up frustration.
Right.
But yeah, I agree. That's very important. But it's funny, like I said, it's funny to hear your perspective on that. Because my perspective on it was, of course, let me just do what I can do. Because mind you, at this time, for those of y'all who don't know, I was in school finishing my master's. Well, I think that was actually still in my first year of my master's. So I ain't just got a whole lot of bread, but I got enough to take care of us. So I'm holding it down. Like she said, she ain't working for 5+ months. So I'm sitting here holding it down, in my little on-campus apartment because I was a hall director at the time.
Right.
So I'm sitting there holding it down, trying to keep her happy, trying to keep her spirits up. So, and your perspective.
But I just felt like I needed more or something.
I don't care.
No, it's just I just was upset. When women in their feelings, everything just go doing no. That's just how we are. Like we ain't trying to hear nothing else. Like it's just like, okay, he just saying apply and be okay. No, we want to scream and cry and shout and stuff. Like we ain't built like that. So that was just all I was about.
Right.
Yeah.
Shaking my head. But it's all good now.
Yeah.
So fast forward to you actually finally getting a job, which that job was a good job. Had you stayed at that job for a little while.
Yeah.
But now, then you decide, because at this time you still in your mind want to be a doctor.
Still want to be a pediatrician.
Your original mindset was, I want to be a pediatrician. I want to work with children.
Right. I love children.
All this good stuff. So, tell me when this process started to change. Tell people when this process started to change. How your original idea, your dream, started to shift a little bit.
Okay, so I'd say within a year or so of working in a physical therapy department, I was a physical therapy technician for over 2 years. But I would say within a year or so of that job, or maybe even less than that, I was like, where was this at in school? Why wasn't I notified of
the different
what
fields,
this is? Right, the different field. And I think that is an issue that we have as far as being aware or being exposed to different careers. I had no idea physical therapy was what it is right now. Like, we had girls on the track team and boys on the track team who majored in physical therapy. That was like, that sounds hard. Biology itself hard, and you're trying to make me do physical therapy. I feel like in my head I thought physical therapy had something to do with physics or something, and physics just seemed my cup of tea.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, I would say within a year of that, I was like, I could see myself doing this. And my whole thing of going into the medical field was also to help my little brother, who was born with cerebral palsy, and he's not able to walk, but he's able to function normally. He just graduated with his bachelor's in psychology. Shout out to him.
Happy birthday, by the way, Bob.
Right.
Watching this episode.
And I was like, I want to be able to help him walk one day. So I was like, I could do pediatrics and do podiatry. I even looked into podiatry. Podiatry is foot doctor, or the study of foot, I think, or something like that. Anyways, I just was like, I want to be able to help him. That's the main thing. So I was like, physical therapy is something I really could do. And so that's when I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I put my foot down. I made a decision. And keep in mind, I'd already taken the MCAT. And I didn't do too hard.
Yeah, you didn't.
And I didn't do too hard because I didn't study like I was supposed to either. So I was going to give it another try. But I was like, you know what? I'm not going to waste $400 on no test. So I decided physical therapy is something I want to do. Especially coming from a background of track and not being able to do rehab on myself with my torn hamstring,
Right.
I was like, this will be good for me.
Right.
Yeah.
So what you mean to tell me is that you could have been a PT major in college and potentially went, you said, because UCA has a great physical therapy program.
Very good.
So you probably, if you did that, you probably would have just applied there.
Right.
And probably had a nice paying job once you graduated.
Because I am 27 years of age.
Right. At the time, you was 23, 24, 25 at that time. So because you didn't have the conversations like in the household about the different careers, it was just about medical school track. And because you didn't have like these conversations about, well, look at all these careers, you didn't know about
I did not
that
know.
process.
I had no idea.
So what would you say to other international students as far as like that process of not necessarily if they want to build up themselves, not necessarily if they. So I'm trying to be conscious with this question because I know some people have a different situation because you know some people have to stay home and help out. Some people have to stay home because I don't know, maybe they got pregnant, or maybe they just don't see themselves leaving the Bahamas or anything like that case. And then there's another portion of them who want to leave, but they just don't know where to start, how to go about it, what career jobs are out there, how do I even get started?
Right. I'd say one thing I'd say, if you, let's say you got pregnant and you was on route to go to school, finish school, whatever the case may be, like, don't let that stop you. Like, help your child, grow your child up, and then it should be a time within that where you say, okay, it's now me time. Okay? So you need to find within those years either a day job, night job, day class. Like, you need to figure it out. Like, figure out what's going to make you happy, because you shouldn't settle just because you have a child. A child shouldn't stop you from chasing your dreams. Another thing is get exposed to what you really want to do. Just because your dad or your mom is a doctor doesn't mean you got to follow suit. Just because you did athletics growing up doesn't mean you got to continue into that as a career. Because let's be frank, everybody not going to be a pro in the sports arena. Like, you just not, like, you may be good in high school, maybe good in primary school, maybe good in college, but you gonna have to have a second what I'm trying to say, a second
backup plan.
Yes, you gonna have to have a backup plan. That was a struggle for me.
Yeah, it was.
You gonna have a backup plan. Like me, I did not have a backup plan. Like, everything was just okay. Med school, nothing else. Pediatrician, nothing else. Track, bam, that's it. And here I am at 27 years of age. Switched what I even went to school for. Mm-hmm. You know, people dread biology, and I sit myself down 5 years to do that and switched. So I would say get exposed, venture out, use Google, look up videos, talk to people. Mm-hmm. That's the main thing. Talk to people, especially if you know somebody who you feel like they have a kind spirit, will be able to talk to you. Go and talk to them. Maybe they'll give you some insight on something that you never thought about. And then you'll be like, oh, I never thought about that. I could go into that field.
So let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. Well, let's first start with the people who are, staying in their home country, and they decide whether they go to college or not, mm-hmm. they decide they're going to stay in their country. What mm-hmm. advice would you give to them? Mm-hmm. Because I don't think it's just unique to the Bahamas having mm-hmm. that work. Everybody helps out, everybody mm-hmm. kind of culture. Mm-hmm. So what advice would you give to them coming from that culture, if you're going back to that culture, as far as like progressing and creating a good life for themselves?
Right. I see it's kind of hard because in jobs back home, mm-hmm. like literally most of the time you cannot move up unless somebody dies or retire. Right. And they be taking forever to die and retire. Mm-hmm. Did that come out right? They be taking forever to die.
I think the people know what you mean.
Anyways, so yeah, I'd say if you gotta just stay in your people's house until you ready to go and do what you gotta do, then that's what you gotta do. Don't let nobody, just because I may be moving a different way or faster than you, shouldn't deter you from the same path that you're trying to get to. Like, mm-hmm. he always says, it does not matter how you start, it's how you finish. So that's what I'd say for people back home. Like, do what you gotta do, and please, please, please don't be a burden to your parents. Yes, continue to help out, but you need to find a time within yourself to say, okay, I need to move on. Like, your parents might not be saying it, but you need to find within yourself. If you know you 35, going to 40, knocking 50, come on now. Come on, let's be real. That's a run out of you still living in your parents' house. Okay, I mean, unless you helping, if your parents like older and you like helping them out, and ain't nobody else in the house and it's just one parent, yeah, I can see that. But you need to go ahead and just don't settle. That's my main thing, is don't settle. And
I think that's very easy to do. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to just settle for, okay, I'm just gonna stay at home. Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna help out my parents. I have freedom to go do what I want. I can leave the house whenever I want, but right. I'm comfortable under this roof doing what I want to do.
Right.
Okay. So tell me about those internationals who do leave, mm-hmm. who maybe they do go out come to the United States, get their 4-year degree, but then they don't like you. They might not have a Cameron to come in and say, "Don't worry, I got you covered. I'll support you while you're over here." What about those people who don't have that support? What would you say to them to find the support, like preemptively?
I'd say try to network as best as possible within your people you go to school with, your professors. If you're in a Greek organization, try to network within your different organization. Don't just go to school just to be going to school, and try to get involved in organizations, to different clubs, because you never know who you can get in contact with, and they can just have a job lined up for you right after you finish school if you don't plan on going back home.
Right.
But that's the main thing I was saying. Be able to talk to people. Like sometimes I'm a shy person, but you have to come out of that little bubble that you in and just talk to people. The main thing is talking, get your name out there. Let people know what you're trying to do, and they'll stray you in the right direction, especially if they are very successful. So
yeah, because I see it in, I see two different viewpoints on this particular subject. Is that you can like you say, network, get to know people who are older than you specifically, like advisors, maybe friends that have just graduated or whatever the case may be, and and also other internationals who have gone through the process. So people like you who have gone through the OPT process,
right,
and that can talk to you and say, hey, you need to get on the ball. Like, you don't need to apply when you walk the stage. You need to apply for a job starting really in January and start looking for jobs then, because it takes a long time, especially for international process.
Right.
But also you could either do that, or if it's just not lining up for you right now, like go back home, but develop a strategy to either use your degree back home, or save money for the OPT so you can transition back. So like keep connected to your college homegirl and say, hey, let's room together, let's do this, and so I didn't gotta pay X amount of dollars for rent and all this good stuff. Because it's not just the career. There's the career piece, but there's also all the other stuff. So the car, like you said, you got your car 2017. You graduated high school in 2010. Came over and went all 5 years without really a car.
Right.
So,
but I did have my best friend.
Right,
because hers.
Because of the friends that you made. But not everybody has that.
Right.
So it's like you got to think about all the other stuff, like where you're gonna stay, how you're gonna get there, buying food in the meantime, potentially progressing, making sure your OPT is up to date, because yours renewed, but not everybody's renewed. So like, what's the next work visa that I should get? So it's like you got to be thinking ahead of time. Right. And it sounds like that, even though that wasn't your upbringing to be thinking in that mode, that's what has been required of you to really transition.
Definitely. Most definitely.
So yeah, great. You got any further thoughts for the people? Because I'm willing to wager the people who are not international listening to this conversation have been like, whoa, I didn't know it took all that.
Yeah. I'd say for those who are not American, not Caribbean, I'd say learn what it takes for us to be over here. Like, a lot of people like to cast judgment, or y'all always hiring this and this and that and the third, but y'all don't know what we go through to be in these positions that we are over here. Like, we literally spend an arm and a leg just to stay in the United States, and it ain't that serious. Y'all could freely come to the Bahamas and do what y'all gotta do. But I just say, y'all should read up on what we do, because we need to have some type of law in place to where it's easier for us to get jobs, or the process isn't as long, because we like to travel. Y'all like to travel. So if it's easy for y'all to come to our country, I feel like it should be easier for us to stay in your country and live a life or advance ourselves. Um, as far as those who want to chase their dreams, I'd say continue to chase what you want to do. Like, no one should be able to stop with where you're trying to go. You shouldn't let nobody put your dreams down. So continue to keep trucking. Don't settle.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's basically it. So I'm a living testimony of keep trucking. Still trying to apply to school, going close into my 30s, and I ain't where I need to be yet. So I'm gonna do what I have to do.
You getting there? Don't do that, because you are killing it. Because I've been talking, I have been mentioning a couple times on the podcast that you have been killing it this summer. Taking 12 hours at once, and you have gotten 2 A's so far. So the third A is loading. So then your GPA gonna be pretty pristine for you to apply, hit your PT school application. So don't be shining, don't be dimming your light.
Oh, that goes into one final thing I want to say is if you don't feel like you have the GPA to apply to a particular school, go back and take those classes over, especially if you can afford it. Go back and take those over, and don't just say, oh, I'm not gonna get in because I have a 2.8 or 2.9 or 2.5. Like,
so don't settle for your 2.8, 2.5. If you do what you got to do to make the adjustment to put yourself in a better position.
Right.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay. Well, before we close out this conversation, let me close this career kind of side of it. Tell me a little bit about the dating aspect, because the relationship and the friendship, like that piece of it, has that been different? As far as dating Bahamians versus dating Americans?
Well, I only dated one American.
Well, you still went out. You still.
Yes, I did talk
had
to
conversations.
Had conversation with I'd say American guys more forward. No. I'd say American guys.
I agree with that one. I can't say I agree with that one.
I don't know how to put it. Both Bahamian guys and American guys are both fast. But in my experience, both sides wanted to get in my drawers a lot of times. But I would say all guys the same. It just depends on your upbringing, how you was raised, the friends you're around will determine.
So let me ask you, before you just say you label us all guys are the same, was chivalry like a thing in Nassau, Bahamas?
Explain.
So as far as a guy should pick you up, take you out, pay for everything, and be a supportive, strong, I guess, somewhat man. Because that's kind of, I'll say that's a strong picture over here. Excuse me.
With some guys.
I would say with some guys, because some just don't do
low
right.
down.
Don't do right. But a good man.
A good man.
A good man, as you say here in Memphis. A good man is gonna come correct.
Yes.
And so, does a good man or a good man in what do y'all say? What's the there you go.
Man.
There you go. I don't know if y'all been hearing on that the accent until then. But a good man.
You sound weird saying it. Just say how you in your own voice.
What does he look like in the Bahamas? Does it look like that, or does it
look
like?
Yeah, we have good men in the Bahamas. We have good men who would pay for things. We have men who would pick you up and do what they gotta do. It's just that's why I'm trying to tell you, like, it all depends on your upbringing would determine how you act towards a certain lady. If you was raised in a family where the lady is respected, you would see that in the man that you date or whatever. But that's why I say it just depends on the guy you come across. You will find a guy who will pick you up, pay for your nails to get done, your hair to get done, do all they gotta do to make you happy, and then you would find a guy who just be like, you gonna pick me up, I'm gonna drive your car.
So let me ask you how the cultural differences have impacted your relationship with me.
Well, I'd say how I talk was a real struggle in the beginning, because what I could, like a phrase I could say to a Bahamian guy, it would be different for him because he would take that. I think he would take that kind of serious compared to when I'd be joking around. And I can't even pinpoint a statement right now that I could say to you because this was just in the beginning of our relationship. But in the beginning of our relationship, it was a struggle. Like, it wasn't like a struggle like, oh, we both to break up type of situation. Like, it was a struggle like understanding.
She's a jokester.
Yes, understanding each other. Like,
so I didn't get the humor.
He did not. It was all bad. He'd be like, that's not funny. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't say nothing to you because you won't get it. Like, you won't get it. But as time went on, you learned how I talk, right?
Correct.
So how did you feel? In the beginning.
So first of all, I had to understand what the hell you were saying.
Okay.
So that's first and foremost, because once you get real comfortable with somebody, like you said, originally you were shy, but once you got comfortable, you start speaking your normal speed, and when you start speaking real fast, you gotta your ears have to speed up. So it's like here's the thing, the Bahamas native language is English.
It is.
But if you are not prepared for the speed at which they speak English, it sounds like a completely different language. And so that adjustment took me at least 2 months.
You learn fast though.
But like for me to hear you talk to other Bahamians,
okay,
and understand what's being said, that I know that took me a good 2-3 months.
Yeah.
So maybe you could, because you probably intentionally slowed down. For me,
I slowed down for everybody because I was tired of repeating myself.
So yeah, so you've intentionally slowed down, but for your friends, obviously,
ain't no slowing down.
Not the case.
But it's just so funny because I don't even think we talk fast compared to other Caribbean places. We don't talk as fast as them.
I don't know about them, but y'all do talk fast.
And that's so crazy because he say we talk fast, but I feel like in Memphis they talk dead fast. Like I barely can understand some of Memphis people. And I don't know if it's because y'all be adding some extra stuff to y'all words. Well, they words, because you're not from Memphis. They were like Maine, everything is Maine, and what's another thing? Anyways,
the main thing.
when they checking you, I don't know what they be saying. So it's just funny how we say we talk fast. Some Americans be talking fast too.
Shaking my head. But okay, so I know one thing for me that was something I had to get adjusted to was your mindset, that like we've been talking about this whole time, like the kind of the collectivist culture, and that the fact that these conversations weren't had with you about, okay, what do you want to do next?
Right.
You're like, get a job. Okay, yeah, get a job, but what about after that? What you mean?
Oh, it'll just come.
It'll just happen.
Right.
At one point and so that's when I think that was something that I had to get accustomed to, was that, okay, she's starting from that perspective. So I have
the present. I am current, not future.
Correct. And so I think, let me ask you this, how was that kind of that culture? Because in you being over here, when you moved to Memphis, you got to meet, different people in my family, of course, people who, have started businesses, people who have big houses, people who have kicked their children out. You met my mom, you met my dad, who, you go on to be successful. You met my brothers, you met how we engage, and of course, I've seen how you and your brothers engage, and you see that none of them are at home. So that's, like, tell me how, like, obviously you lived here in America for 5.5-ish years, but then you got kind of enmeshed in American culture, at least from my perspective.
So what's your question?
My question is, what was that like for you? What was that?
Being enmeshed in American culture?
Yeah, in America, in my family, let's say my family specifically, was it difficult to understand? Was it a learning curve? Was it like, what's going on here? Was it crazy looking? Was it?
No, it was fine for me because, like I said, I grew up with all boys and 2 parents, and he has all brothers, 1 sister, 1 younger sister. The only thing I'd say different is that I kind of feel like I'm closer to your family now.
Oh yeah, 'cause
being away from my family. I'd say, I mean, that's the only thing. Like, your family really took me in like their own. Like I'm blood family. So I don't feel like nothing was different with that. I don't see no difference.
Got you.
Yeah.
You really killing me here, huh?
What you mean?
I'm talking about you ain't giving me no little nuggets about how, oh yeah, well, you know, we do this, but I saw that y'all do that, or blah 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 blah.
But I'm trying to think about what y'all do that we don't do. They celebrate all y'all celebrate all holidays and stuff by your mom's house. We didn't have that. Because everybody in the same house, so everybody ain't got to come from different places to celebrate Christmas, Thanksgiving, Labor Day, Independence, all that good stuff. Like, everybody just come over to his mom's house.
And the fact that I think everybody's on the same island over to y'all's house.
Right, everybody on the same island.
Whereas over here, we spread out.
Right, y'all all spread out. But I'm just saying, like, but for my family per se, we all in the same household. Nobody is kicked out, so that's something we used to doing. Like, I know for me, my family pray morning and night. I don't see that with y'all. Like, as a family.
No, because we gone. We got things to do.
Exactly, but I'm just saying, like, that's some. Did you do that when you was growing up too?
It just depends. Like, if it was what you call it? What's the 40 days before Easter? Not Lent. Because we're not Catholic, so I don't want to call it Lent, but
Good Friday?
Good Friday.
No. I know what you're saying.
Basically, when you fast and pray before.
Yeah.
Lent, but not Lent.
Okay. I feel like I know what you're saying, but the word ain't coming to me.
But anyway, we had a culture. We were cool and all, but it wasn't like I got to go get a job to have to help out to stay and contribute. It's like I got to get a job so that I can get what I want, so I can get on up out of here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it wasn't even like that for us, where you have to. It just was like, that's just how it is. It's understood. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So in my case, it was understood that you need to get up out of here at 18. 18, you need to plan, like conversations we have from my perspective. Yeah. Was, okay, what you gonna do when you turn 18? You gonna go to college? You gonna get a job? What you gonna do?
Yeah,
that stay here.
Yeah, that was not the case. We ain't even had that. What you gonna do at 18? I will be up in your house. To me.
So it's conversations like that I found interesting in our relationship, because like when we had that conversation about how we gonna do our kids when they turn 18,
right?
So I think we decided we're gonna do a combination of the two. Is like,
yes, we're gonna combine, yeah.
As in, you can stay, but you need a plan,
right? Like,
we need you to build up yourself and you to be happy. So, but if you need to stay here for a little bit longer, then that's cool.
Fine. Yes, but I'm not gonna kick my children out. No, I wasn't kicked out. I mean, I still left, but my brothers wasn't kicked out. So why would I do that to my kids?
Whereas my perspective is kick them jokers out when they're ready. So you got an apartment, you got a job that can handle it. Goodbye. You can come back when you need it. You can come use the washer and dryer, all that.
Like, cannot.
But anyway, this has been great. Thank you for filling in.
No problem,
my dear. For those of you who love this podcast, please give us a thumbs up. Not give me. Give us a thumbs up. And share this with somebody who could really benefit from hearing this perspective.
Right.
But keep pursuing your version of the good life. Give us that 5-star review on iTunes, please. And we will see you next week.